I have one skillet that I have cooked in nearly every day since 1974. It has never been replaced. It has never worn out. It has never had a coating flake off into anybody's eggs. And I have never once thrown it away and bought a new one, which is more than most people can say about the pan sitting on their stove right now. It was not new when I got it. It was my mother's, and it was her mother's before that. And it is going to my granddaughter, and it will still be working long after I am not. That is 3 generations out of one piece of iron that cost somebody about $2 in 1930 something, and the thing that keeps people from having that is not skill and it is not patience. It is about 6 pieces of bad information that everybody repeats to each other, and every one of them is wrong. My name is Doreen. I have 13 of these, and I want to give you a couple of them up front so you know what you are waiting for. Number 7 is the one about soap, and what you have been told about it is not just a little bit wrong, it is backwards, and I will show you why. Number 4 is a thing that takes 90 seconds, and it is the difference between a pan that food sticks to and a pan that food slides off of, and almost nobody does it. And number 1 is not a technique at all. It is a single sentence my mother said to me over that stove when I was about 9, and it is honestly the only cast iron advice a person actually needs. I will also tell you the 2 things I will not cook in mine and the one job where I reach for a different pan entirely, because I am not going to sit here and tell you iron does everything. I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. Here are the 13. Number 13, buy it used and never buy it new. Go to an estate sale, a farm sale, a flea market, a thrift store, your aunt's basement. Old iron sits in all of those places for $5 or $10, and it is better than what you can buy today. And I mean that literally, not as an old woman being sentimental. Here is why. Iron made before about 1960 was cast in sand molds, and then the inside was machined, polished, smooth as glass. Somewhere in the middle of the last century, they quit doing the polishing step because it cost money. So what you buy new today has a pebbly, rough surface that came straight out of the mold. It still works, but that old smooth iron is easier to season, easier to cook on, and it will beat a new pan on eggs every day of the week. Look for a flat bottom that does not rock on a counter, no cracks, and no big chunk of the rim broken away. Rust does not matter. Rust looks frightening, and it is nothing, and I will show you why in a minute. Do not pay collector prices for a name on the bottom. A plain, unmarked old skillet cooks exactly as well as the fancy ones and costs 1/10 as much. Number 12. Rust is not the end. Rust is a Saturday afternoon. People find a pan in a shed, see the orange, and throw it away, and it kills me every time. That pan was fine. Rust is only on the surface, and it comes off. Take steel wool or a wire brush and scrub it down to bare gray metal. Yes, you are taking off the old seasoning too. That is fine, you are starting over. If it is truly bad, a soak in half vinegar and half water for an hour will loosen the worst of it, but do not leave it in there longer than that, or the acid starts eating the iron itself. Then wash it, dry it completely, and re-season it, which I will tell you how to do in a minute. There is no rust so bad that iron cannot come back from it. It is not like a non-stick pan, where once it is scratched, it is finished forever. Iron is just iron all the way through. You can always get back to it. Number 11. The oven is your seasoning, not the stove. Here is how to season, and I want you to do it in the oven and not on the burner, because the burner only heats the bottom and you get a patchy job. Wash the pan and dry it completely. Put a very small amount of oil on a rag and wipe the whole thing, inside, outside, handle, bottom, all of it. Then take a clean rag and wipe it all back off. That is the part nobody believes. You want the pan to look like there is no oil on it at all, just a faint sheen. Too much oil is the single most common mistake, and it gives you a sticky, tacky pan instead of a hard, slick one. Then, upside down in a 450-degree oven for an hour with a sheet of foil on the rack below to catch drips. Turn the oven off and let it cool in there. Once is enough to start with. 2 or 3 rounds gives you a better base. And do not chase perfection, because the real seasoning comes from cooking in it, not from this. Number 10. Any cooking fat works, and the fancy oil is not necessary. There are people on the internet who will tell you flaxseed oil is the only correct answer for seasoning. I have tried it. It gives you a beautiful hard finish, and then it flakes off in sheets about 4 months later. And I have watched it happen on 2 of my pans. Plain vegetable oil, canola, shortening, or lard all work fine. Lard is what my mother used, and it is what most of the iron in this country was built on. Olive oil I do not care for on iron because it goes sticky. Bacon grease is fine to cook in, but I do not use it for a formal seasoning because the salt and the bits of meat in it can go rancid. Use what you already have. Iron has been seasoned with whatever was in the kitchen for 200 years, and it worked out. Number 9. Preheat the pan before anything goes in it, and preheat it slowly. Cast iron heats unevenly. That is its one real flaw, and nobody tells you. If you put a cold skillet on a hot burner, the middle gets scorching and the edges stay cool, and then your food cooks in 2 different speeds on the same surface. So put it on medium and give it 5 minutes before you do anything. 5. I know that feels like forever when you are hungry, but iron holds heat better than any pan in your kitchen once it has it, which is exactly why it browns meat so beautifully, and it only does that if you let it get there first, and then turn the heat down. Almost everybody cooks on cast iron too hot. It does not need the flame that a thin pan needs because it is holding its own heat. Number 8. Food sticks because the pan was cold, not because the seasoning failed. This is the one that makes people give up and go back to nonstick, so pay attention here. When you drop food into a properly hot pan with a little fat in it, the surface of the food sears almost instantly and forms a crust, and that crust is what lets it release. In a lukewarm pan, no crust forms. The food sits directly on the metal and it grabs. Here is the other half of it, and this is the one nobody tells you. When it sticks at first, leave it alone. Every instinct you have will be to scrape at it. Do not. Give it another minute or 2 and it will release on its own when the crust finishes forming. I have watched more good suppers ruined by somebody impatient with a spatula than by any pan. Number 7. Soap is fine. Everything you have been told about this is backwards. Here it is, and I know some of you are going to fight me. The reason your grandmother said never use soap is that soap in her day was lye soap, and lye genuinely will strip the seasoning right off a pan. She was completely correct for her soap. That soap has not been in an American kitchen in 70 years, and nobody updated the rule. The dish soap under your sink today is a mild detergent. It cuts grease, and your seasoning is not grease. This is the part that matters, and almost nobody understands it. Seasoning is not a layer of oil sitting on the pan. It is oil that has been heated until it chemically bonded to the iron and turned into a hard polymer, which is a fancy word for a plastic-like coating that is stuck to the metal. It is not going anywhere. Soap cannot dissolve it because it is not grease anymore. It stopped being grease the first time you heated it. So wash your pan with a little soap and hot water and a brush. Then dry it immediately, and here is the part that actually matters. Put it back on a warm burner for a minute until every trace of moisture is gone. Water is what hurts iron, never soap. Water sitting in it overnight is what puts rust in a pan, and letting it drip dry in a rack is the actual mistake people make while they are congratulating themselves for not using soap. Number 6. Salt is your scrubber for anything stuck on. a tablespoon of coarse salt in a warm pan with a paper towel or a rag, and scrub. The salt is abrasive enough to lift burnt food and soft enough that it will not hurt the seasoning at all, and it costs about 2 cents. For something really welded on, put water in the pan and bring it to a simmer for a few minutes, and it will lift on its own. Do not do the thing where you run a hot pan under a cold tap. That is called thermal shock, and it can crack a pan straight down the middle, and once it is cracked, it is done. Let it come down some first. Number 5. A chainmail scrubber is the $10 I would spend first. If you buy one thing for your iron, buy this. It is a little square of stainless rings, $10 or $12, and it lasts forever. It scrapes off stuck food far better than any sponge, and it does not damage the seasoning at all, because seasoning is that hard bonded layer and not something you can wipe off. It also polishes a rough new pan smoother over time, which helps close the gap between new iron and that old machine polished iron. I will say plainly that I got along without one for 40 years with a stiff brush and salt. But this is one of the few new things that is genuinely better than the old way, and I will not pretend otherwise just because it was not in my mother's kitchen. Number 4. Dry it hot, then a drop of oil while it is still warm. This is the 90-second habit I promised you, and it is the whole difference between a pan that food sticks to and one it slides off. After you wash it, put it back on the burner on low. Let it get hot enough that all the water steams away and the pan is bone dry. Then take it off the heat, put about half a teaspoon of oil in it, and wipe it around the whole inside with a paper towel, and then wipe it back out again so it is barely there. Every time you do that, you are laying down another microscopic layer of seasoning. Do it after every wash, and your pan gets better every single week you own it, which is a thing no other pan in your kitchen can do. That is really the whole secret of cast iron. It is not maintenance, it is accumulation. Number 3, cook fatty things in a new pan for the first month. If you just re-seasoned a pan or brought a rusty one back, do not start with eggs. Eggs are the hardest thing to cook on iron, and you will be discouraged, and you will quit. Start with bacon, then fried chicken, then sausage, then cornbread, then anything with a good amount of fat. Every one of those meals is adding seasoning while you eat. Give it a month of that, and then try an egg, and it will slide. And a small thing that is worth knowing: iron gets better in a household that uses it, and worse in one that saves it. A pan hanging on a wall for good is a pan that never improves. Mine is on the stove because it is on the stove every day. Number 2. It works everywhere, not just on a burner. This is where iron beats every other pan you own, and most people never use half of it. It goes in the oven, handle and all, because there is no plastic on it to melt. So you sear a chicken thigh on the stove and slide the whole pan into a 400-degree oven to finish, and that is one pan for a whole supper. It goes under the broiler. It goes on a grill. It goes directly on a campfire or a wood stove, which is exactly what it was built for. Cornbread comes out of a hot iron skillet with a crust on the bottom that you cannot get in any other pan on earth. It will take a pie. It will bake a whole loaf of bread. It holds heat so well that food is still hot at the table 20 minutes after it left the stove, which matters more than people realize when supper is running late and everybody is arriving at different times. One pan that does the stove top, the oven, the broiler, the grill, and the fire. Now think about how many separate pans somebody sold you to do those same jobs. And number 1, which is not a technique. My mother said this to me over that stove when I was about 9 years old, and I did not understand it until I was probably 40. It only breaks if you take care of it wrong. Just cook in it. That is it. That is the whole of cast iron, and everything I have said today is a footnote to it, because here is what actually happens to people. They read 6 articles, they get frightened of the pan, they decide they are going to ruin it, and so it goes in a cupboard and stays there. And a pan in a cupboard is the only way a cast iron skillet ever actually dies. It cannot rust while you are cooking in it. It cannot lose its seasoning while you are cooking in it. Every single meal you make in it improves it. There is no other object in your kitchen that gets better the more you use it. Everything else in that room is wearing out from the day you bring it home. Your non-stick pan is dying a little every time it touches a burner, and in 3 years you will replace it, and in 3 more you will replace it again. And that is the arrangement somebody built on purpose. Iron just gets better and asks for nothing but that you not leave it wet. Now the honest part, because I said I would, 2 things I will not cook in mine. Anything acidic that has to sit and simmer a long while. Tomato sauce for an hour, a lot of vinegar, a lot of wine, lemon reducing down. Acid will eat at the seasoning, and it can put a metallic taste in the food. A quick pan sauce with a splash of wine is fine on a well-seasoned pan, and I do it all the time. A pot of tomato sauce cooking down for 2 hours is not, and that goes in a different pot. And the one job I use another pan for entirely. Fish. Delicate fish sticks and falls apart, and I do not want salmon flavor living in my skillet for the next 3 meals. I have an old thin steel pan for fish, and I do not apologize for it. A few practical things. It is heavy, and if you have wrist trouble or arthritis, a full 10-inch skillet coming out of an oven is a genuine hazard. And there is nothing wrong with a lighter pan. The handle gets blistering hot in the oven, and every single one of us has grabbed it bare-handed at least once. Keep a folded towel on it as a reminder, and on the iron in your food. Cooking in cast iron does put a small amount of iron into what you eat, which for most people is a small good thing. But if you have hemochromatosis or any condition where your body stores too much iron, that is not a small thing, and you should ask your doctor. I am a grandmother who is good with a skillet, not a physician. So here is what I want you to do this week. Find the iron you already have. Almost every house has one somewhere, in the back of a cupboard or out in the garage or at your mother's. Go and get it. If it is rusty, spend one Saturday afternoon on it. Steel wool down to gray metal, wash, dry, thin oil, wipe it back off, upside down in a 450 oven for an hour. Then cook bacon in it. That is the whole assignment for week 1, and then leave it on the stove where you can see it. Not in a cupboard, not hanging on a wall for good. On the stove. Tell me in the comments what you found and where it had been sitting and what state you are in. I read all of them. And if there was a skillet in your family that got handed down, tell me whose it was and what she made in it, because those pans are still out there in people's kitchens doing work, and I would like to hear about them. Next time I am doing the Dutch oven the same way, which is the other piece of iron most people own and hardly anyone uses properly, and it is the single best thing in a kitchen for cooking cheap. That skillet on my stove has fed 4 generations, and it did not need one thing from anybody except to be used and dried off. Go find yours.